What's up? As you see, it's Matt Grissom list today. It's a threesome. Listen, I know this is college football, but we're running a triangle offense today. Let's see if we can score a couple points. The same points that other teams couldn't score over the weekend. Nick Smitty, what's going on?
Yeah, I'll just say this is one of those weekends that makes you. This is the reason why we love college football. We saw the matchups leading into the weekend. You think it's going to be a down weekend. There's not a ton of top 25 matchups or great games, and then you end up with who knows 20 plus one score games, flip flops, a top five team losing, a blowout in the top 10, a 20-point comeback. Like this is why we love college football. Like all the reasons that you don't even see coming leading into the week.
Yeah, it was a crazy weekend. The games were insane. The bets could have been so much better. So many tight losses, but that's how it goes. I mean, This week you might luck out and win some that you're like, there's no chance I was going to win that game. So it all kind of evens out. But I mean, it hurts. It hurts the ego a little bit.
In my opinion, Nick, I'm opposite. These are the weeks that I wish college baseball was back because I don't have this failure in college baseball. It was just brutal for me.
Get the basketball season going.
Not looking for any sympathy, but man, I felt like I really capped the card right and just letdown after letdown, starting with Northwestern. I'll just kind of lead into it. I know, Smitty, you had it. Give me your thoughts on the Northwestern game, just because that was the Friday night, and then we'll move from Friday into the top matchups since we played that.
Yeah. I mean, it was kind of what we thought it was going to be. It wasn't pretty, And I was keeping an eye on it a little bit. I'll tell you, I was not sitting and watching that play-by-play. I was tracking it, and then it kind of, that was a later start on the with the Eastern time there. I think it was like a 9 p.m. kick, and I was heading up to bed, and they were winning. And that's like I texted you guys Saturday morning. I woke up real early by like 7, and looked and saw it was a double OT loss. So not the greatest way to start the day on Saturday, but it kind of went into what the day was. But yeah, I mean, both teams just ugly, but good for Duke. I mean, he threw a couple good passes there that helped them get the victory.
Nick, any thoughts? I don't think you played that one.
No, heck no. No thoughts either. I'd rather go to a high school game here around Knoxville, Tennessee than watch Northwestern Duke on a Friday night.
Sean says, is Matt making sure his hair is done? He was having a bad hair day, so he called it sick today. That's ultimately what it was. Yeah, I watched 3/4 of that game. I felt like I just wasted 3 hours of my life. It was Northwestern. I thought like they had all the momentum early on. Then they throw a pick to give a touchdown back to Duke, and then they really gained it again. But I'll tell you one thing, and this is going to be, and I'll touch on it as I lose other games and we talk about them. If your kicker, if you're going down the field and you get to decide what hash, if he says the right hash, do not trust him, because anytime a kicker in college is on the right hash, it is a guaranteed shank. They need to either be dead center or left to be able to push what I call in my golf game a nice fade. So I'm just telling you right now, he missed 2 of them from that same hash, as well as Utah's kicker. So that's my main point in that game. And then the top matchups. I mean, we can just kind of run down here. Texas, Michigan. I think Nick hit it right on the nail on the head there. He pretty much said Texas was going to come in and take care of business. I believe that it wasn't going to be that bad. I think we knew early on. You could just tell Michigan just didn't have it on offense. Replacing a line, a quarterback. For all intents and purposes, Blake Corum, him and JJ were your offense last year. They just looked extremely lackluster. Texas wasn't even throwing crazy trick plays or anything like that. I mean, they were just punching Michigan in the mouth, and Michigan had no defense. I'll start with you, Todd, Michigan fan. What's your thoughts?
That was ugly. You knew it was bad right away. It just, the problem with it at the beginning of the game, Texas went down, scored a touchdown, but it was called back for, I think, a holding. Then they missed the field goal. Michigan, again, just their offense is just so bad. I'll get to that in a second. But the big story was their defense. I was shocked how bad their defense played. And they were getting them to third downs, but they just could not get off the field on third down. So, hey, good job by Texas. A lot better team. But like you said, Q, they are replacing a lot. But the problem is the quarterback. I mean, the quarterback play is just so bad. that kid just does not have it. And I'm just shocked. My rant with that is, how in the world don't you have somebody else that could step in and be ready to go and be somewhat competent to run an offense here? Great story. The kid's a cancer survivor, so good for him. And it's a great story. But, I think the Disney moment's over and it's time to
make a wish. Yeah, before, just to get that, we'll get to you, Nick. They said the kid hasn't played football in like 4 years. He was a 0-star walk-on. Like, you're the University of Michigan reigning national champions. You can't tell me that you can't figure out another kid, whether it's your campus or somewhere else, that's even like a 2-star. I mean, I get it. Again, like, the story's cool. He probably has the ability and the talent, like, on film, what you saw in high school. But man, I get it. You want to have a cool story, but that's tough. Like, I know they had a recruit that was on a QB1 Beyond the Lights show. He medically retired due to a heart condition. The cool story was is they kept him on scholarship, and then he could work with the team as like almost like a grad assistant or undergrad assistant. That's a cool story. To play a kid who's a cancer survivor but has no reps in 4 years, that's not a cool story. That's a recipe for disaster.
And before Nick goes, really quick too, then you have Orji that I couldn't believe. They finally drive the ball down and they go for it. I think it was 4th and 1, and they bring him in. Well, you know what they're going to do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what did he do? They ran him straight up the gut and he got crushed. Hey, great job. Again, it's not just one bad quarterback. You have a quarterback that they won't allow to throw the ball, or he can't throw the ball. So I don't know what they were doing. So go ahead, Nick.
Yeah, I mean, there's not much to add. I think it was one of those where it's like Sarkisian I felt like he was a little comfortable early in the game, like with this kind of play calling, and just wanted to see what he had and what he could get. And then I feel like it didn't take long, maybe a first quarter, until he realized, okay, I don't feel threatened at all by this Michigan offense. Let me open up our offense, because I don't care if we turn the ball over. I don't care if we go 3 and out. We're going to outscore them, because there's no fear on the defensive side of Michigan keeping up with us from a point standpoint. So I think that was one of those where it's like, let Quinn Ewers ball. Like, they got a lot of third downs, but if you saw, like, they were just picking on every corner and nickel outside of Will Johnson the entire game. They just said, okay, who's Will Johnson covering? Most of the time it was Isaiah Bond. So they just went opposite of Isaiah Bond every single third down, and were getting what they needed to yard-wise. And, yeah, it just ended up being a full-blown mismatch. And, like, it didn't matter. Texas was, like, Blue got hurt in, like, the second or third drive. I know he came back in the game, but he got hurt in the second or third drive for Texas. So they were on their 4th-string running back, and they were still running the ball at like 5-6 yards a clip. It didn't make a difference. It was just, I don't know a position where Michigan had an advantage from what I saw that entire game. Like, it just looked like it was just a beatdown everywhere.
And that kid, that Gibson, I grabbed him one of the fantasy with one of my last picks, because he was pretty. I think he was like a big time high school kid coming in. Yeah. So yeah, I think a 4-star. I think off the top, maybe. So. Yeah, good. I mean, the talent is just so much better. So much better.
Yeah, this is a national championship contender. Like that's the best the team has looked all year. I know Georgia looked great against Clemson, but the way, like, that was just so dominant Saturday. Like, that was a perfect game.
Well said. Before we get to the next matchup, join the chat, ask questions. We got to think of a name. Like the college baseball, we got the bullpen. Come toss some questions around with us. What do we? Come join us on the sidelines. I don't know. We got to think of something cool, kind of catchy. We'll figure it out.
Yeah, we'll think of something.
Yeah. All right, Nick, start us off. The Arkansas Okie State game looked to be an early dominating performance by Arkansas. Hogs gonna hog, as they say. We watched it. Matt Grissom went quiet. I had the game on like a smaller TV, and then I instantly zoomed in when I realized he wasn't texting our thread, because I knew it was bad. Usually he's chirping if they're playing well. So they end up blowing the game in overtime. They do cover for them. It's just, what a performance. What's your thoughts on both sides? I think there was positives and negatives on both.
This is one, looking at the box score, there's no reason Arkansas should have lost this game. I think they ended up, almost like 600 yards of total offense versus Oklahoma State's 350. They held Ollie Gordon to 60 total yards. Like, this is one of those, if you look at the box score, you'd say, okay, this is a perfect recipe for Arkansas to win this game. The turnovers just absolutely killed him, and they put him in like such bad just bad field position. Every time they turned the ball over, they gave Oklahoma State the ball like 30 or 40. Like it wasn't even like they were in their own territory or anything. So yeah, and just even the play calling at the end of the game seemed so conservative. It was one of those situations where it's like it wasn't one of those try to win. It was one of those let's just try not to lose. It was almost like they got so conservative. They're worried about the comeback. I mean, it was rough to watch. But luckily, I mean, I had the over, so I needed overtime. As soon as that field goal was hit at the end, boom, hit it. Could care less what happened. Obviously, I wanted Arkansas to win for the show and Matt's sake. But yeah, my over hit. But like I said, there's no reason Arkansas was the better team for probably 55 minutes of that game, and there's no reason they should have lost it.
Yeah, before we get to you, Smitty, they had 600 total yards of offense, and I think 400 of that was on the ground. And then, like you mentioned, they ran for 3 quarters, and then the fourth quarter, it seemed like they went to like a passing offense. And Taylen Green, in my opinion, he's not the greatest passer. Like, they're playing not to lose. Why did you all of a sudden change when the guy was running at will 15, 20 yards a clip? It almost felt like every other play. So I didn't understand that. And then running the ball kills the clock. So it just didn't understand that thought process from Pittman and Petrino. Smitty, what's your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I was trying to tune it in here, there. I was watching Michigan get beat down on. I mean, that's my team. So that was my screaming at the television. But again, I kind of agree. If you look at the stats, this is a game that Arkansas should have had. I mean, just a much improved Arkansas team, though. I mean, they are moving the ball. They're scoring. The quarterback is putting up some numbers. The running back had a really big game. One of their wide receivers caught a lot of balls for yards in there. So it was a tough loss for Arkansas because they did have the game in control. I'm glad it went to OT and the boys covered a bet there with the over. But yeah, I mean, I think it's kind of what with Oklahoma State. I was shocked that the running back was down so much with his yards, but it's an Oklahoma State team that's always, the defense is always a question mark, and it continues to be like that this year.
Ken Eberle says Notre Dame losing helped with the sting of my Wolverines.
No, it didn't, Ken. No, it didn't.
We'll circle back. We'll just bang out these top matchups, and then we have to talk about it. There's just no other way around it. It's that elephant in the room. We just have to talk about it. So we'll get to it. But the Iowa State, that was crazy. Iowa total control until like the last 8 minutes of the game, and then they just fell apart. I didn't understand. Essentially, at the goal line, you start throwing the ball with K. McNamara when the running game looked great all day long for all intents and purposes. So that just was mind blowing. What's your guys' thoughts? Smitty, I'll go to you.
Yeah, I had money line on Iowa. So, like I said, I think on the show 2 years ago when they played there, Iowa State came in there and pulled off the win, and they did it again. It was another game, just kind of like Arkansas. They were in control. The problem is McNamara last week against Illinois State started really cold and then heated up as the game went on. And that's, like I said, they scored a ton of points in the second half. This game, he was on fire at the beginning of the game. And then as the game went on in the second half, he was really bad. So again, it just, I don't know. It's just one of those, I don't even know what to say about it. I was so frustrated. And they were gashing him on the ground. The running back had a big game. The problem with that, Iowa State's linebackers, they're really nicked up with the linebacker crew and stuff. They're really on some backups, and Iowa was doing a good job, but you could just see the momentum change in that game. And hey, the kid came in, the kicker hit I think it was a 54-yarder to take the lead there and win the game. So good job by Iowa State.
Nick?
Yeah, it was like a give and take. We hit our community team total over 18.5 because they scored 19, thank goodness. But it was like they ran for 147 yards in the first half. And then it was almost like Kirk Ferentz of old, kicked in, and he's like, wait a second, we're scoring too many points. Why are we doing this? We need to be punting more. All of a sudden took over in the second half. And then once it gets close, around that fourth quarter, I don't know why they stopped running. I wish they would have gone back to the old school Iowa and gone back to running the ball more instead of they were doing a bunch of little screen passes that were to 2 to 3 yards, incomplete passes. McNamara having to throw the ball away 3 or 4 times. It was confusing. It looked like a non-identity type of team. They couldn't decide if they were last year's Iowa versus what they want to be moving forward. And Iowa State happened to be the team in the middle that took advantage of mistakes. Like they didn't look good either. Like,
Oh.
like what we've already talked about Iowa State and Oklahoma State now. Nobody in the Big 12 looks any good. We're about to talk about Kansas. Good Lord. So like this, I don't know what the Big 12 is doing, but yeah, this game it was ugly. It looked like a high school football game. Glad we hit my bet. I did add Iowa money line, which ended up losing at the end, but yeah, it just wasn't a good game all around. Like I don't know what to think of either of these two teams moving forward.
Illinois, Kansas. I said I personally I didn't watch it, so I don't have much commentary. I did see the box score that Daniels had 3 interceptions. Typically, you throw 3 picks, you're probably not going to win. So that was a key thing that I saw there. I want to say he threw just over 50% passing, which also isn't that great. But I did. Man, this line smelled kind of like a trap game. Why was a ranked Kansas going into Illinois, who, for all intents and purposes, I think their over-under was like 3.5 this year for win totals. The line was fluctuating between 5 and 5.5. I should have almost taken Illinois because it felt so weird that it was almost like telling you, hey, this is an easy winner, but I didn't. I stayed off. Glad I didn't take Kansas thinking I was going to beat the system. But Smitty, what's your thoughts on the Kansas upset here?
Yeah, I was right with you, Q. I didn't really watch any of this game. Just was, again, tracking it, keeping an eye on the score. But I think we all said that on Friday's show, that this was weird. We didn't like the line. It should have been higher. But again, when your quarterback's throwing 30-something attempts and he only has 140-something yards passing, and then again, 3 turnovers, you just can't turn the ball over. Can't turn the ball over. And again, teams can't kick field goals. You got to punch it in. You got to punch it in football, and you can't be turning the ball over a lot, and they did. So good job by Illinois. Like you said, it was a team that a lot of people weren't very high on, and right now they started off 2-0, so we'll see where they go here in the Big Ten.
Nick?
Yeah, I mean, a couple of those turnovers were in the fourth quarter as well. Like that's kind of what Kansas was leading most of the game. Illinois kind of came back. It was cool to see like an Illinois stadium filled up. Like that place is kind of nice. They know how to rock it. Like their basketball fans are always wild. I don't like who was that? Like that last team that was like Aurelius Ben was like their receiver, and like when they were like 9-2 that one year or something.
Yeah,
crazy.
Aurelius Ben. They had a running back.
I can't remember who that quarterback was, but like they were a solid team and they were fun to watch.
Davis was on the team.
Yes,
They were quality. They had a good running back. I can't Mendenhall.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, they were a fun team to watch.
Quarterback, like Juice Williams or
Juice
something.
Williams.
Yes, that's
Juice Williams. Yeah.
Look at this. Okay, yeah.
Yeah, they played in a New Year's Day bowl.
They did. They were, like I said, 9-2 or 10-2 or something. But so this was great to see them like fill up that stadium. Great basketball matchup, but we got it in football. So it was a weird. So I watched. I was like you guys. I didn't watch it until I turned on the fourth quarter because I was like, oh dang, like something's happening here. And yeah, Kansas just couldn't get a first down. They looked outmanned at the line of scrimmage by Illinois. So Brett Bielema doing his thing there. But yeah, I mean, I was against this one. Like I said, I had Kansas and Tennessee in a parlay money line together. So this one cost me 1. This was one of mine that like should have hit, but didn't because Illinois scored towards the end of the game. I was wrong on it. I can admit it. I should have stayed off of it because we all said this line just felt odd, and it turned out to be correct.
Yeah, Matt said it. He said it as well in our preview show, Fishy Line. We all should have been on Illinois. We all smelled it, and none of us actually played it. So he also said the top right corner being empty. Well, listen, if you just cut your hair and you didn't worry about it, you wouldn't have had this fiasco today. So that's a you problem. That's not us. I don't have any hair, so I wear a hat. Smitty's is always looking fresh, and it looks like Nick threw in LA looks.
No, none.
High gel. Looks good. I wish I had your hair. But moving on, we're not going to talk about Nick's hair anymore, but we are going to talk about his closet volunteer fandom here. They just outright started a little slow against NC State first couple drives, and then it was like they flipped on a switch and said it's time to play ball. They end up winning. Was it 51-10, I believe, was the final score? Nico is him. I don't think there's any other question. You just kind of break it down.
Yeah, I think as I mentioned in that kind of Texas-Michigan game is a little bit similar. I think Heupel was looking to see – he was a little bit hesitant at first. And it could have been some of the crowd. It could have been Nico's first kind of away game and was just kind of taking things easy, not really taking shots at the beginning. But then I feel like once he realized that defense, Tennessee defense is the story of the game. Like we can talk about Nico all we want. We can talk about Dylan Sampson running for like forever, all we want. But that Tennessee defense, NC State didn't score an offensive touchdown. And this is one of the offenses that we had such high hopes for going into the season, and possibly one of the top 3 or 4 offenses in the ACC, probably one of the top 20 in the country offenses. We were thinking with Grayson coming in, and man, they could move the ball, they couldn't block anybody. The receivers outside, every time Casey Concepcion got the ball, it was because it was on a little bubble screen or within 2 or 3 yards of the line of scrimmage. And yeah, the defense, absolute story. So it's I want to praise Nico. I want to praise this offense, but everybody knows this Tennessee offense is what it is. But I don't even I'm high on this team, as you guys know. I have that bet on them to win 10 games. I think they're going 10-2 this year. But I didn't even know what to expect out of this defense. And man, if they play like that from here on out, I don't know who's going to be I think they're going to be favored over Oklahoma. They will be favored over Alabama at home. It'll be probably close, 1.5 or 2, somewhere around there at home. I can see that just because they're at home. They're probably going to only be an underdog when they go to Georgia. Outside of that, if this defense is that good and they can take pressure off of Nico to have to be perfect, and we know this offense, they put up 51, but if they can put up 35, this team becomes a lot more scary than we were all thinking kind of coming into the season.
Yeah, this is by far Josh Heupel's best defense anywhere he's ever been. Yeah. Usually he doesn't care about defense, so it is kind of surprising to see how good they are, because usually they're giving up 40 a game wherever he was at, and they were just trying to outscore teams, kind of like the old Bob Stoops Oklahoma regime type. And so it's interesting to see Josh Heupel not only score points but actually prevent teams from scoring points. So I hate Tennessee with a passion, being a Florida fan, but I do have to respect it. I'll say this before we get to Smitty. We've now seen Georgia and Clemson blow out Georgia, SEC. We've now seen NC State get blown out by Tennessee, SEC. Other than the Miami game, I think you're seeing the ACC versus SEC for what it is. I mean, it's just that the talent level, the talent disparity, they're on 2 different playing fields, and you're seeing that. When you're playing UVA, when you're playing Wake Forest, versus Tennessee, who their worst game might be Florida, and Florida could probably win 7 games in ACC with the current team they have, in my opinion.
Vandy beating Virginia Tech, who should have been probably the 5th best team in the ACC this year.
Yeah, it's so I think even the SEC's worst teams are still better than ACC. That just comes down to Tennessee's more prepared. It's interesting to watch. I'm not surprised, but yeah, there is that talent disparity. And I did think Grayson McCall was going to have a little better performance. Obviously, they locked down Conception, and then that kind of takes out McCall's game. He's still trying to learn that team too. So when you take away a security blanket, that probably makes things a little tougher for the Wolfpack offense. Smitty, what's your thoughts?
Yeah, I was watching the Colorado-Nebraska game. So I was going to put this on, and then it was so bad. I love when Deion's getting beat. But I don't like Nebraska, and I'll go in that in a rant in a second. But I didn't put this really on because it was starting to get out of hand. Yeah, McCall, I think it was Nick on Friday. I thought somebody said on the show, sometimes when it's the bigger game, he doesn't really step up and have
yeah. Well, I said that because I said he hasn't been in one outside of kind of a small conference one yet. I'd say this will be his first real kind of Power 4 conference type game.
Yeah, I mean, and he struck 15 out of 22, 104. They couldn't get anything going on the run. Again, Tennessee's offense is really good. Running back had a big game, like you guys said, and the defense was just locked down. So, again, I was tracking it. I was like, I'm not even going to put it on because it was a blowout. So, I think, like Q said, the talent level, again, it was just – I think NC State's still going to be a good team, but their defense was just – Tennessee's defense is very legit. So, keep an eye on that team.
Yeah, Alyssa Lee, we're talking about defense. Defense wins championships. She knows her football. It's the test is as long as time, or whatever the saying is. Like, same thing, in baseball, pitching wins championships. Same thing in football, defense. You can figure out a way to score, especially with an offense that has Nico at the helm and Josh Heupel calling the plays. You can figure things out on that side as long as you have a good defense to keep you in the game and give you those opportunities. If you are trying to join us from Twitter, I apologize. It seems like something's wrong on Twitter's, and hopefully it'll get resolved and get back onto the show. But if you know anybody watching having issues on Twitter, just tell them to come over to YouTube, and it's live there. Final game of the slate that we were covering, Boise State, Oregon. Man, I'll tell you what, they hung 37 points, but that seemed like a nasty 37 points. I believe we all took over 39.5. Don't know how it didn't hit against Boise State, who gave up 45 to Georgia Southern. Boise State's defense isn't that good. I just Dylan Gabriel starting kind of slow, in my opinion. It's just Evan Stewart, same thing. Like, what is going on? You can tell this team is not like last year after losing Franklin and many others on the team. Bo Nix just seemed like he had it. Right now, Dylan doesn't. Not to say his numbers aren't bad, but there's the difference between the numbers and actually watching the games. And right now, Dan Lanning's boys are struggling in Eugene. Boise State, though, got the running back. This guy's essentially competing Ollie Gordon for best running back of the year. And right now, through 2 weeks, he's beating him. It just is what it is. GT's just running. Nobody's stopping him. It's like his head's cut off. He runs like a true stallion the Boise State way. Nick, give us your thoughts on the game.
Yeah, I mean, you could say, like, I don't know how this team total hit, but we got lucky it was even that close. I mean, it was a kickoff return for a touchdown, a punt return for a touchdown, so the offense did nothing. Like, I don't know. And, like, I was watching it, too. I don't know it was hard to pinpoint. Like, all these other games, you were able to pinpoint kind of issues of, like, what teams were having trouble with and everything. Oregon, it was like, okay, they were completing passes, but just not getting third down conversions. They were getting in good, like, third and shorts as well, and then, like, they would get stuffed. It was very odd. Like, and it was, I don't know if it was the play calling or something. Something just looked off. But they had better athletes in Boise State. They had, obviously, better quarterback, better receivers. Their defense, like, showed up for the most part. Like you said, Jinchi's he's a beast, man. Like, and when he broke that one, like, he gets through, like, the line, and, like, on that 70-yard touchdown, it was like he broke that, like, those front four defensive linemen and was just, like, gone. And it was like, wow, okay, like, this Ollie Gordon, like, look out, this might be the first running back taken in the draft type of thing. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. We all gave on this show, all of us on this show gave Oregon a pass after week one. We kind of said, okay, the stats look great. I mean, they had 600 total yards on offense in week one, but only scored 24 points. You do it twice, then it's sort of like a shame on me type of thing, as opposed to, like, shame on you. So I'm not sure. Like, they have a couple weeks of little down games until they get into real Big Ten play. So let's see if they can figure things out. But if they play like that against, whether it's Ohio State, I know they have Penn State coming there. We'll see. But this is not the Oregon team that I expected to see, like, coming into the season.
Yeah, before we get to Smitty, Ken Eberle, so is Oregon a pretender or playing possum? I think it's a definite downgrade from last year's team. I'm not saying
they have two offensive linemen out. We'll say that.
Yes.
I do wonder, once they get those two guys back, is that a giant difference, because they're playing freshmen right now instead of, one is a senior and one's a redshirt junior. So we'll see if they get those two guys back, if they make that much of a difference. But
I think it's too early to call them a pretender, because they have the talent to actually turn it around. And then we look back and laugh at this take. But it's also, it's too early, but it's something that's, like, on your radar. Like, you're not saying that's a terrible take by any means. So I think it's a very good question, very interesting kind of spot for the Ducks right now. But like I said, they could turn it around, or they could be, just a worse team from last year, and last year was kind of the ceiling. But Smitty, what was your thoughts as we wrap up our top matchups?
Well, this was a game, that was one of my favorite plays. I thought for sure they'd be in the high 40s. And they were losing. I mean, they were in trouble in that game again. And like Nick said, they had to get a kickoff return. And again, the guy, it looked like he dropped it, like right going in or something. I know some people were talking about that yesterday.
No, so it was because they said that his teammate recovered it in the end zone. That's why the replay didn't last very long, because it wouldn't have made a difference either way.
Yeah. But again, the running back from Boise State's just the first 2 weeks, unbelievable numbers, just such a talent and stuff. But yeah, let's go. I mean, Oregon, we got to figure this out a little bit and get some points going and get the offense going. So like Nick said, with the guys maybe coming back, maybe that's going to change some things. But it's a team that I thought that was going to be a blowout. And I know a lot of people really liked, like, I think it was minus 18 or 19, and a lot of people really liked that one. So Oregon better figure it out here pretty quick.
Yeah, Matt chiming in said Oregon looked like they were playing essentially cute football, every play call. Obviously, the offense is great. I think we can agree on that on paper. But, yeah, they keep a lid on it by running stupid trick plays and check downs. When those trick plays don't work, it becomes an automatic check down or just a throwaway, and it kills drives. It really does.
Hey, Q, I do have to say, with that Stewart kid, that wide receiver, you kind of came after him a little bit Friday. And I said, hey, I got him on my fantasy. Can you please do something? 5 catches, over 100 yards, and a touchdown. So I'm glad he watches this show. Thank you. So keep it up.
He needed to catch a 6 reception, though. He screwed you out of a loss. So
I think it was that one that I lost by a point.
Yeah. All right, so we'll just break down the week 2 picks. I've added them up. There's really only one good performance. Grissom going 4-2 overall, 4.5 points for the season. He hits his best bet. Also, the over in the game. Thank you to Boise State, not the Oregon Ducks. And then, man, I don't think any of us saw Arizona State winning.
Mississippi State looked bad.
That was
bad.
I mean, they went from being, hey, this team could be like a dark horse in the SEC, them and Vanderbilt, to, yep, it's back to the cowbells. It's the typical Mississippi State.
And the score made it look close. It was 30-10 at one point. Like the final score made it look closer. 30-3. So the final score made it look a little bit closer than it was. But man, yeah, they are rough.
Brutal. Yeah, the Dogs couldn't stop Scatabo. It was pretty wild. Hey, give it to the Sun Devils. They showed out. It's a rare occurrence, but it does happen every once in a while. Blind squirrel does find a nut if it's hungry enough. Nick salvaged the win here. Tennessee over. That was with ease. Like I said, started a little slow in the first quarter, and then it was smooth sailing from there. The over in what felt like an FCS game, the MAC, Ohio versus South Alabama, just didn't go. I think it was 27-20. No shot towards the as they got to the end of the game. And then, Nebraska hung 28. Thought they'd hang a little more. This is what they had, 28 at the half, I believe.
28 at the half, because I had team points over 31 and a half, and I was like, oh, this is going to be easy. Well,
yeah.
And you know what? Another slap in the face. With about 5 minutes left, they broke like a 65-yard run for a touchdown, but it got called back because of a holding.
Oh, tough loss. Colorado, 10 points, essentially didn't show up. But, yeah, that was tough for us. So, Nick, second place, 3-3 season overall, 3.5 points. So, he's hanging in there. It's not looking good for Smitty and I. We're just trying to compete for not being last. Oregon team total, I thought that was an easy winner. I had as my best bet. Felt like I should have got Northwestern money line. They had control for most of the game, just blew it. And then the Utah game, I'm sitting there. I texted you. I should have never said anything. I was like, yeah, they're waxing Baylor. Cam Rising, just wrap that dude in bubble wrap, because that was just atrocious. And then I go back to the kickers. Don't ever let a kicker in college kick from the right hash. They're not as good as they say they are. Don't do it. They cost covers in games. If he'd have just made one of those, we're looking at a cover, but he can't do it. And they weren't even long. I mean, I think one was like a 40-yarder and the other was something closer than that, and he couldn't drill it. So that was a tough loss. Yeah, I thought that was a 3-0 card. I was sadly mistaken. That's what college football does to you if you love your card. And then Smitty, same thing. He struggled in the season.
Woo!
Yeah, Michigan, that was tough.
That was bad.
Yeah. And then on the final 2 with me, there's nothing else we can say. We don't make.
Yeah, that Oregon, I love that play. I thought that was, and again, Northwestern, I thought was a good one, and they just again lost. But Michigan didn't make the game. I said they got to make the game ugly. Well, they played ugly, but Texas,
they forgot to make Texas play ugly.
Yeah, so they didn't. If they listened to the show, they didn't really take what I kind of meant. They flipped it a little bit. So
Nick, we'll let you finish off the show here with a little Notre Dame talk, and then we'll cut you loose.
Yeah. I know people want my tears, and they'll get them here. Okay, little rant. I don't know what Mike Denbrock was doing. And this is one of those offensive coordinator hire of the offseason. Everybody thought this was going to be the thing. Like, they hire away from Mike Denbrock from LSU, who looked great, just had Jaden Daniels win the Heisman Trophy from LSU, a great offense. I'm not sure what yesterday was. So they basically had Jeremiah Love, their running back, averaged 7 yards a carry. Their backup running back, Jadarian Price, averaged 6.2 yards a carry, but they only combined for 15 carries. Make that make sense against a Northern Illinois team that you absolutely should dominate up front. You just dominated Texas A&M on the front with brand new offensive line. So tell me why you're not running the ball more there. I don't get it. And then some of the fourth quarter play calling, it was like we're all scared of losing here. And then Riley Leonard just made an awful throw over the middle that overthrew his guy on a 2nd and 1. So I'm not sure why he's throwing the ball 30 yards on the field anyways. So I don't know. I'm frustrated. The defense is still who we thought the defense was. Yes, Ken. It is luckily Notre Dame has that in just under their mattress. So that's not a big deal because of the NBC partnership. So we're not worried about the money, but man, that was just one of those games. It was disgusting. Me and my dad were texting back and forth, just what's happening? Okay, they're sleepwalking. Okay, they'll still end up winning by 10. Now we're in trouble. Now I have a bad feeling, and it just kept that downhill where it's just you can feel kind of what was happening as the fourth quarter is going along, and it was just one of those things. I don't know what to say. Offense looked brutal. Defense was as expected. I mean, the only bad thing you can say about the defense, they were on the field for 78% of the game and giving up, I think it was 3.8 yards a carry, which is not bad, but I mean, it's not great. But so here's my tears. But it's one of those, if Notre Dame, we said, and jokingly, we've all said Notre Dame's going to lose a game this year they're not supposed to lose. I didn't think it'd be this. I thought it might be Louisville or some weird one like that. But now it's, okay, this was your mulligan. If you go 11-1, you'll still get in because that means you still have a win over A&M. You'll have a win over Florida State. You'll get a win over Louisville. You'll get a win over USC at the end of the year at USC. So if you finish 11-1, you'll still get in the top 12. But there goes your mulligan, week 2 of the year. So now it's you better be focused the rest of the season. Otherwise, your season's over. And Marcus Freeman, you're on the hot seat.
That was one of my only good plays there. I had them plus 28. And you said that on Friday.
Yeah, I told you to play it. I didn't.
Yep, sleepwalking a little bit, and somebody wrote me, and they're like, "Too bad you didn't do the money line." I'm like,
"Well, nobody." Yeah, I mean,
I would have looked like a genius. But I wrote you guys this. You got to give credit to the MAC because again, Northern Illinois, big 100%. Win. Bowling Green played really well against Penn State. I was watching some of that game. I mean, they were really competing and moving the ball against, supposedly a really good Penn State defense. So good job for the MAC.
Yeah, the MAC's had storied good programs. So to them, they go in there, they air it out. They get a lot of money for their program to play in these games, and they play without any fear because they have nothing to lose. If they lose the game, it doesn't matter. It's not like it's shocking. But when they do play well, they say, screw it, we're just going to go out and ball and have fun, and they win the game. Obviously, it's just that much more meaningful. So teams who schedule the MAC, you just can't sleep on them. We've done a 30-minute show on a recap. Usually our recaps are 20, 25 tops. That just kind of tells you the wild week of college football that we had. I'll be honest, I can't remember a wild week. I don't know if we had a season or a week like this last season. I mean, this was just wild from the start from a gambling perspective. So it's good. Obviously, it makes us stay on the show a little longer. We break down stuff, but it is, it's good for the sport to kind of have this parity. And for those that were on Twitter or X that lost a view, I apologize. Something was going on with Twitter. We did get it rebooted, but if you missed part of the show while we were doing that, just hop on over to YouTube. It'll be under the live section on the tab. You can just watch the show and catch the parts that you missed. The recaps, we're still working on that. Just last minute, couldn't get the graphic up. So we'll post those either tonight or tomorrow. But, as always, follow us at NCAA Insiders on Instagram. We're going to get the TikTok fired up. collegefootballinsiders.com, where you can start projecting your matchups heading into week 3, even without our top 6 that we pick. And then obviously Smitty Bucks, Nick Hathcote's on Twitter as well, Grissom on X. Matt's not here, but he's always active on Twitter. Just shoot him a message or shoot him a comment. And then myself, Q Millie, that's 3 L's 2 Y's. And then follow the show, spread it, subscribe. We really need the subscription. So
can I say something before we go off? Next time, after we go over our picks, and especially if we have 3 big red X's on them, can we go to another graphic so this thing hasn't been up for 5 minutes? Smitty's picks 0 for 3 for the week. Thanks, guys. I appreciate it. Can we come up with something else?
Hey, it's accountability. It's accountability. Be better.
Gracious. Start recap. Flip them back or something. Show Knicks.
This is like film. Hey,
gracious.
It got me.
There you go. See, I like it. Flip it off. I like it. Thank you.
All right. I got nothing else. You guys have nothing else. We'll sign off.
Wait, real quick.
Yeah,
the Discord. You mentioned the Discord.
That's
where obviously, once again, that's where all of our plays are. We update it basically every day. Every time we put a pick in, we whether it's Q, me, Smitty, or Matt, we all put plays in that Discord. It is free this year, so please join. It's on all. You can find it on all of our socials. Literally just click join, free. It's a great community too. I think we're up to 170 people maybe who throughout Saturday, game day, you can just talk about football all day long. You have questions for us, we will answer every single question you guys have. So it's a great thing to join. So don't forget about that.
Awesome. Yeah, I apologize. We're new to this Discord stuff, so it's just more thing we got to shout out. But yeah, it's 170 people in 2.5 weeks is incredible growth. And like Nick said, don't hesitate to reach out to us. We're always scanning that thing. Even if you don't tag us, we're kind of scrolling, seeing what the conversation's like. So if you have any question about our picks, we do like to keep the picks quiet. That's the way it's just easy to figure out who's on what. But there's another #gambling section where, like you said, just talk college football, ask us any questions, and we'll happily answer in a pretty timely manner too. So we're pretty good about getting you those answers in case you may be trying to put in a bet or not put in a bet. So without anything else, we'll see you Friday.
Smitty, Texas State